So let's see how all of that plays out. But again, I would see something like, if this is a three-way move down, right? We'd get a three-way move up and then maybe a five-way move down and then build some accumulation and then continue moving up. But if the way I drew that, that's going to still take another year, maybe a year and a half, up to 2 years. Just that little drawing right there, right? So for people who think we're going to go something like this in a massive bear market, that's just totally not what I think. And if that happened, then God help the altcoins, because I don't think the altcoins would really, they would get obliterated. So that's why we need regulation. That's why we need utility. And that's why it's coming. It's not like it's not going to happen. So we should see crypto regulation this coming year. We should see more XRP ETFs. So there's a lot of still good things to look forward to. So we do have a big dump right here. But if we zoom in on the dump, let's see, do we have any sequential? We're on a 6. So we could potentially have 7, 8, 9, between 3 to 5 weeks. I would say 3 to 4 weeks of more downside if we were following the sequential. Let's look at the daily. So the daily chart, remember, it looks like to me you have 1, 2, this is 3, this is 4, and then let's go get 5. Let's get that divergence, and then we'll pop up, and then we'll build that base, and then we can go get that retrace. And depending on how the retrace looks will determine if we're in a bear market or not. Chances are we probably will be, but that doesn't mean we can't see anything crazy come from the altcoins. Let's look at XRP now. We'll do Ethereum first. Look at this. We're on a 9 on the 4-day. The last time we had a 9 on the 4-day was right here, I think. And we came up and we slammed the low. So with Ethereum, I'm not worried at all because we have a lot of support. Remember, Ethereum has been in a bear market. This is where I get super happy and excited. Ready? Bitcoin has been in a bear market since 2021. So April, May of 2021. So we've been literally going sideways, literally for all of these years. So what is that? 4 years? 22, 23, 24, 25. So we have 4 years. But not only that, you can say, well, who cares? We could still go into a bear market. Yeah, but look, because you were not in a bear market for 4 years, because you were in a bear market for 4 years, what you did is you created a lot of support. You created a lot of layers. You created layers, right? So you got layers in there, layers in there. You got all of these layers of support. So you have a lot of support versus you look at something like, Bitcoin also has a lot of support, but it has less support. But you could see it built the base, right? So you have all of this support down in here. So if we do find our way down there, I would still expect a retrace. And then once we get that retrace, it could be what is needed for the alts to escape their range, right? Now, for example, I'll go back to Ethereum in a second, but mainly here, XRP, take that off, right? So you could see XRP has been in a bear market for 8 years. It's been in a bear market longer than any other coin, really. So, if Bitcoin gets its retrace, depending what level we chill out at, right? Because again, it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could drop a little bit more, but we really want to see some bottoming come in. Remember too, we are more oversold than we've been in a long time. Let's look at that for just a second. Hold on 1 second. How do I make that? There we go. Let's get rid of that. And let's go down here. And there we go. Okay, so here's the 4-day chart. And just random chart. Look at this. Extreme, 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 extreme. Guys, this has only happened 3 other times of how extremely oversold we are, which means what? You know, and then another thing too is if you read all the comments, bear market, the bear market, the bear market, every like videos. So obviously there's a narrative, there's a push for the bear market, and yes, they have very good reason to think that. But then you also have to understand that even if we're in a bear market, guys, that doesn't mean we go straight down. Just like in a bull market, we don't go straight up. Look at this, for example. Right? Let's flip the chart upside down. Okay. Now, obviously, and now if we flip it upside down, you could see, right? Here's our bull market right here. So we have a bull market, a mid-cycle correction, continue for the bull market. Then we have a bear market, right? So even if we go straight down, you're still going back and you're retracing. This is what I want to see right here. You see how we chilled out a little bit and then we went in a 3-way move and a retrace and then we continue down? That's what also happens in bear markets, but the opposite direction, right? So if just because we're in a bear market, we went straight down, it doesn't mean we're going to keep going straight down. That makes literally no sense. Literally no sense. Especially if you look at the RSI. Now, if you take a look at the RSI, the last time we were this oversold, ladies and gentlemen, was literally, let's take a look here. Literally 150 days, 160 days from the low, from the bottom of the bear market. So we are more oversold than we've ever been going back from the bottom of the bear market, from the previous bear market, 160 days away from the end of from the previous bear market. Blah, 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 blah. That's a lot of words there. So if this massive dump is the same RSI level as this, then what do you think is going on here? You know? And then also we're on log scale. If I take it off log scale, look how freaking big it looks now, guys. See this? Now the tables have turned. See, now this looks massive and this looks kind of small. You see how that works? So what this means is, you know, people are, and you know, what it means is people are convinced we're in a bear market. The reason why is because a lot of the comments you see are emotional responses. If I give you an example, let's say you buy Bitcoin, right? And then Bitcoin goes down, you get pissed off. And you buy the dip, and then it goes down further. And then you get really pissed off. And then you kick and scream, and then you say, yeah, we're in a bear market. It's just like, for example, like some family member is sitting around Thanksgiving dinner, and you know, I'm sure you've seen the video where the kid, he flips over the dinner table. That's like because he's pissed off, right? He's mad. He's upset. And it's just the same way with investors. You know, when they lose money, it's upsetting, right? But you have to think about it logically. You're not really losing money. You're losing what it's valued at, but you're going to gain that value back eventually. But right now, you're going to have to deal with it, right? And that's why dollar cost averaging is important. But if a family, you know, if somebody's so pissed off, you know, that's why you're seeing comment after comment after comment on Twitter or whatever of bear market, bear market, bear market, bear market, because they are convinced we are in a bear market because of the emotional damage they received. And now they're throwing comments as if a family member is throwing the Thanksgiving turkey out the window, right? So it's just anger and frustration. So what I'm saying is, when you get extreme levels like that, it doesn't mean we're going to keep going down. It's just like the opposite. Like, imagine we were going up and everybody's super bullish. Oh, we're going to go up, we're going to go up, we're going to go up. And then what happens? We pull back. And it's the same thing right here. We're going to go down, we're going to go down, we're going to go down, but we're going to pull back, right? And then when we pull back, then we can say, yeah, we're in a bear market, because it depends how it looks, right? For example, let's say we finish, we build a base, and we go up in 3 waves, and then we get rejected. Well, I would look for 3 waves down. And if we don't find support, then I would look for a continuation down. If we do find support, I would look for 5 waves up, and it would be a bigger 3. So the apex, the pivot would be there, right? Versus, and then that we would assess that as a bear market. Versus if we built a base right here, and let's say we went up in 5 waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So we had 5 waves up. Then I would look for a 3-wave pullback, and then I would look for a continuation of 5 waves up. And then I would say, okay, now we have 3 waves. We have an ABC, a 535 ABC. So either this is going to continue into a third, into a 4 and a 5, or that 3-wave move is over and we're going to continue down. So even if you get a 5-wave move off the low, you would get 3-wave pullback, another 5-wave move off of that. That's still only 3. So we would continue down or continue up. And that, where does that happen though? It happens in the retrace levels. Specifically, let me give you the exact price where we could potentially retrace towards, but we don't know because we haven't bottomed yet. So this doesn't mean jack, because we haven't confirmed the low. Let me make sure this is not on log. Is it on log? Or is it because, yeah, it's on regular. Yeah, because I'm on regular. Okay. So the levels would be the 618 and the 702, right? So anywhere up here, anywhere in this level would be the spot. And then if we throw on some moving averages, not those. Yeah, they're not saving. I'm not sure why they're not, but let me just put it back on. There we go. So right now, let's go to the weekly. We're holding the 100-week moving average. And if we take a trend line and we just go like this down, and then we'll follow that down, that's going to cross. This is going to continue that way. But the price could still break above those before continuing down, right? So let's see how all of this is going to play out. I know. So the thing is like, another reason people scream for bear markets is because they're trying to emotionally console themselves, like preparing themselves for the worst, for the worst, right? It's kind of like, if someone gets in a car accident and they're completely shocked. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in a car accident. And they keep saying it over and over. I was in a car accident. I'm in a car accident. I'm in a car. They call everybody. I was in a car accident. Because they're trying to like console that, it helps them sort of manage the situation in a weird way by continuing to say it, like, have you ever seen a movie like where the guy shot the other guy and he's like, oh my God, I killed him. I can't believe I did it. And he keeps saying it over and over because he's in shock. This is kind of like with the bear market, right? They're going to keep saying it over and over. And I'm not saying there's no bear market. Look, I'm just saying, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to protect people from destroying their portfolio because they think we're in a bear market. And if we are in a bear market, you shouldn't be completely selling. I mean, not financial advice. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You got to make your own decisions. But if people are, let's say, for example, right, Bitcoin crashed, and then everybody on X says we're in a bear market. And then what do people do? They say, oh, okay, we're in a bear market, so I'm going to sell all my XRP, right? I'm going to sell all my XRP because now we're in a bear market. No. Bitcoin's in a bear market. Whoa, 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 whoa. Let me go back to, I had it on the other chart, so I have to do this. There we go. So what I'm saying here is, if Bitcoin, if people are convinced we're in a bear market and they sell everything, and then they sell everything, and then what happens is you go into a retrace, you may not get the retrace. Maybe it's a good, maybe selling here is the best thing to do because we're going to capitulate further. That could be true too, but normally you want to wait. You want confirmation yet, because we're at support, right? Do you sell at support or do you buy at support? Let me ask you that question, right? Anytime you hit support, you buy. And here's resistance. You go to resistance, you sell. You come back down, you buy. You go up to resistance, you sell. You come back down to support. What do? Do you sell it here? No. Why? Because you're at support. So if we break support and we backtest support, then you can sell it, or you can sell it in a retrace. But if you just blindly sell it down here, it does count as a dollar cost average, and it might be a good thing later on, especially if you go down to a 150 or 130, you're going to be glad that you sold right there. But what I'm saying is, if you go back to Bitcoin and you look at the let's go back to the 4-day RSI, and then also we've already crashed. This is extreme levels. Look at this. Extreme levels. We haven't been this oversold since going back to June of 2022, guys. That's a big deal. And it's not like we were in the middle of a bear market, because remember, we've had already been in a bear market for a long time. Right? This is just one wave here that's just started, right? That took everybody up in arms, but we were looking at it as a flat right here, as a flat. And look, support. We have not broken support yet. So what I'm saying is, we have an RSI that's completely oversold. We're right on support. So why would everybody sell? This would be the worst time to sell. It's already crashed a lot, right? So the best time to sell, if you're going to sell, is I would wait for this to break and to get a weekly close. Let's go to the weekly here. All right. And then let's take a line, and we're going to put that line right there. And we're going to put another one, let's say right there. Okay. So what I would say is, the only way I would sell now, right? Because we should have sold up here. Well, I was DCAing because of this three-way move, right? Anytime you get 3 down, 3 up, there's always a chance you could get 5 down or 3. So since we're coming to support, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, right? Because again, Bitcoin's been falling for a while. Look how long we've been falling. Look at this, week. These are the weekly candles. This is a long time, right? Look at all of these weekly candles. Red, down. This is going back since July. So basically 6 months. We've been going down for 6 months straight. Down. Look at that, week. This is week after week after week after week after week after week. So what that does is, you could say, well, that's incredibly bad. I should get out before it's too late. Well, what that does is it creates an environment of complacency and believing that it's going to keep going down because it's been going down. This is the trend, right? The trend is your friend. And if the trend is going down, we have to think it's going to keep going down. And that's true. That's true until you get to what? Support. And that's where we're basically at now, is support. So we have to look at this as a range, not a bear market. This is a range. So if it is a bear market, then it's kind of a good thing. And when I say bear market, I say continuation of the bear market, right? Remember, Bitcoin or XRP has not been in a bull market. It's been in a bear market for years, guys. And what this is doing is it created, you see this right here? Well, that is just a smaller version of what this is. Pretty much. Right? You have A, B, C, D, E. You have a triangle, right? And then you broke out of the triangle, right? And now you're creating a flat, A, B, C. You're creating a base, right? And that's an important thing, because you're creating a base on top of the all-time high. So here's the all-time high, and you're creating a base on top of it. So is that distribution, or is it a corrective move, right? Is it a bullish corrective move? Too much yellow on the screen. I got to get all that off. So yeah, so we're building this massive base. And what I'm saying here is, if Bitcoin can get a retrace, then that could be the fuel needed. Here's the grand finale. That could be the fuel needed to get a 5-way parabola to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9, even $10. You say, oh, that's impossible. How could we even put that doesn't make sense. How dare you say that? Well, we're in a bear market. There's no way. Well, again, I mean, come on. If you look at Bitcoin, and I've showed this many times, but if you look at the previous cycle, we had a massive cycle. By the way, this cycle, we didn't create any bases. We went parabolic. Bitcoin has not went parabolic yet. It goes up a little bit, then it chills out. Then it goes up a little bit, then it chills out. Then it goes up a little bit, then it chills out. And then it kind of pops the high, and then it has a big fall. And, you know, it's kind of like, well, even if we do go into a bear market for Bitcoin, we have a lot of support coming up. But what I'm saying here is, if you look at XRP exploded. When did it explode? It exploded after Bitcoin was already in a bear market. So if you take 3 drives to the high right here, take this fractal right here, right? Where did it happen? It happened right here. This is when XRP exploded, right there. Okay, so what we're going to do, that was only a little 3-wave move. Look, we had a 3-wave move, just that little 3-wave move. That's it. That's it. And look what XRP did during that time. It went exploding off the low. So what I'm saying here is, if Bitcoin is in a bear market, that's actually a good thing. That's what you want. You want it to be in a bear, because that's what happened last time. XRP exploded when Bitcoin was in a bear market. So we should cheer for the Bitcoin bear market, actually, if you want to know the truth, right? So what I'm saying is, let's take this fractal. Now, I don't like the fractal anymore because it's already way too big, but I'm just showing you, like, you could see, let's pull this, let's do this and just put it on the side here. And if my phone, there we go. So you got a move up, come down, move up, come down, move up, come down, move up, come down. And then you have this little 3-wave retrace. It might take the high, it might not. It might just be a little bit of a retrace, just like that. Just a little pump here. So if we could get that pump, then that could be what's needed for XRP or Ethereum or Bitcoin Cash or whatever coin is in position, right? It's all, I'm not talking about like THETA and Filecoin and some of these coins have gotten obliterated. I know they are definitely in a bear market. They've been in bear markets. They're closer to, Theta is closer to a bull market than it is. You know, Theta is, well, I should say Theta is closer to the end of its bear market than it is to the beginning of the bear market, because, we'll look at Theta, but I digress. So if we take that out like that, and let's say we find a little bit of support here, and then we go into a retrace, this little move, just like back in the day, could be enough to give us a 5-way move off the low. And it makes total sense because you have ETF coming in, regulations coming in, it's going to give you more volume, right? The crypto space is a little bit dead right now because everybody walked away. Everybody's walking away. And when everybody walks away and you're at really low lows, I could tell by the views of the videos how people are engaged or not. And the people who are really going to make it are the people who pay attention. Even during depressing, boring times, you still should pay attention because it's a learning process, right? So I think it's bullish for XRP. Now when I say bullish, I mean overall. I don't mean like today, tomorrow, next week, right? Because we could still have some big moves to the downside, right? So again, even if you look at this massive move right here, if you look at this massive move, that move came after Bitcoin was already in a bear market, right? So you could see we crashed and then we retraced. And that's when we had that explosive move, right? So it actually happened right there. So let's put this up here. There we go. And we'll put it both on regular scale. And you can kind of see them both, right? So now let's go back to, well, let's just get that out of the way. So what I'm saying, guys, is eventually XRP will hit $5 to $10. That's what I'm saying. XRP did not just go, 20, build this massive base, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 8 years. It didn't just do that for 8 years just to go into another 4-year bear market. That makes literally no sense, right? That's why I believe this time, every time is different. When they say, oh, this time is different, every time is different because people think, oh, it's a 4-year cycle, but that doesn't make sense because when you grow the market cap, things take more time. And that's why we saw Bitcoin, the way it goes up, right? You could see it's taking its, like, look how fast Bitcoin went up right there. But look how more methodical it's taking its time, moves up, it takes its time, it moves up, it's taking its time, right? So what's happening is the Bitcoin is allowing more time for itself because it's such a big market cap now. It needs more time, and it takes more time and money to move the Bitcoin needle, right? So, this is a big dump right here. This one isn't too bad. So again, you get that retrace. Let's see if we get a hit to the high. Just like Zcash, like nobody could explain, well, why did Zcash explode and nothing else exploded, right? It was a one-off kind of situation. Now I don't think XRP necessarily will be a one-off situation unless there's some type of news narrative behind it. So that's basically it. We're kind of sitting here waiting and seeing how this is all going to play out. And what we should recognize, though, is we want this wave to be finished, right? And there are problems with it. I'm not saying it's all gravy, and I'm not saying we're just going to go $5 to $10, right? Let's talk about that for a second. If we are in a bad situation, and let's say Bitcoin comes down and we are in a bear market, right? Let's say we have a little bit of a bounce here, but then we kind of come down and then we kind of settle in here. And then we gear up for the next cycle. And you could see, we're not that far away if we are. Again, if Bitcoin is in a bear market, I don't think we would drop below 50K. I think 50K has to be held. I don't see us going below 50K. I really don't think we would even, I think we could stay even above 60K. And if you want to know the truth, that's not that far away. That's not that far away. If I take a little ruler here and I go down to 60K, that's still 30% away. That's still a big move, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad, right? So we've already fell 31%. So if we go down to 60K, that's 50%. So for a multi-trillion-dollar asset, 50% is a big haircut, right? And if we went down to 50K, that would be about 60%. So I'm calling the bear market bottom to be between 50 and 60K if we do that. So if that happens, what happens to XRP? If XRP does not go into price discovery, well, how will that look? Well, let's take a look here. So what I would imagine here, right? This is just a forecast. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. So I would kind of look at it like, for example, if, let's say we come down a little bit more, right? We come down a little bit more. We get some kind of a retrace. It could be a shallow one. It could be a bear flag. It could be anything to suggest a corrective structure in the opposite direction. Well, if that's the case, then I'm going to have to make this bigger because I can't really see it. There we go. Actually, I'm just going to do XRP. So I would expect it to go a little bit lower, right? And then what that would do is that would give us a three-way move, a three-way flat. And then from there, I would look for a five-way move up. If we don't get that five-way move up, I will look for a three-way move up. Because either way, you should get three, right? If you get three down, you should get three up. And if we get three up, then I would expect either 3 or 5 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, right? And I would expect the bear market low for XRP to be, or remember, we're still in a bear market. I would expect it to be somewhere in this zone between 90 cents and $1.30 is the low, is the market, is the XRP bear market low. So especially with what's been going on, I mean, come on, right? Again, we're getting a new Federal Reserve chairman. We should have lower rates. We should have easier monetary policy. Trump's already looking at getting rid of the income tax. I predicted this years ago that Trump would get rid of the income tax. And look, he's barely... When I talked about it first on Facebook, everyone laughed and said, oh, you're crazy. And it's literally happening. He's literally saying we're going to get rid of the income tax because he's going to replace the income tax with tariffs. And like how it should be, like how it was pre-Civil War. The income tax was to pay for the Civil War. Many people don't know that. The central bank or the government, they enacted the income tax to help pay for the Civil War. Well, last time I heard it was over, but they got addicted to the money, so they kept it, right? And the Democrats and even the Republicans, they want more money for more programs and more kickbacks and more corruption. And it's like there's so much money already that we could fix every road, every bridge, every sidewalk, every building for a fraction of the cost of all of the amount of government waste we've seen. So if you take all the waste, the government waste all the time, and you put it in a big bucket, that bucket could fix the United States like 10 times over. You know what I mean? So anyway, if this, so again, I would look 3 down, I would look for 5 up. If we don't get 5 up, I would look for 3 down, I would look for a 3 up, and then I would look for 5 down. And then I would look for us to really settle in a low here, and then I would look for us to round out and start a bigger retrace, and then eventually going up to that $10 level. So again, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. You have to believe it. You know, if you look at Ripple and you look at Brad Garlinghouse and you look at Monica Long and you look at what they're doing, you think we're just going to stop at $2 and never go up again? That makes no sense. You know, and if you look at Japan, for example, Trump just made a deal with Japan. Well, if you look at one of their big SBI holdings, Japan, you know, they said basically a lot of the banks in Japan are going to be using XRP. They love XRP. And so this is how I would imagine the bear market, right? So you have the euphoria. So if you take the market cheat sheet, you know, this one right here, you could see, right? You have hope and disbelief, optimism, belief, thrill, euphoria. Then you come down, complacency, anxiety, denial, panic, capitulation, anger, frustration, depression, and then disbelief. So you could see a high, a low, and a base, and then a recovery, right? So that's how I would look at it. So if this is the top, you know, you come down, you go into complacency, then you have a big drop, anger, panic, anxiety, frustration, all that, and then you kind of chill out a little bit, maybe hit the low one more time, come up, and then you start rounding out and continuing. And that's what all this is. That's what all this is. I don't think, it's not like we're going to go down below 30 cents again. It's not like we're going to go like this range right here. If that range was ever broken, I would say XRP's dead. Like XRP cannot go below 50 cents. If it did, it would be a major problem. A major structurally problem, massively. Because I don't even want to talk about it, but it would be a major problem if that happened. I highly doubt that, right? Because you got your W. Look at the W shape. These are bullish structures. You got bases at the bottom. This is accumulation at the bottom. And then you got the spikes at the top. But this time, you're having a little bit of a base get built at the top. So you're building layers of support. That way, if you do break out, eventually you will come back down. And when you do come back down, you're going to have this base to hold a little bit of support. That's why XRP, in my opinion, like let's say Ripple controlled the price of XRP. Well, how would they control it? Well, they would control it based off the future, right? Because they want the longevity of XRP. So how would they do it? They wouldn't just explode the price because then it would collapse. What would they do? They would bring the price up above this retrace high. You know, you could see all this gray area. Look at all nothing here, right? So what happens is XRP breaks into that gray area and then it hits the bottom, hits the top, hits the bottom, hits the top, hits the bottom, and it's building layers of support structure. That way, when you do eventually break out and then you do eventually come back down, you have all of that support. So you're investing now the time and the structure so that when you do break out and you do come back down, you have support to land on. Especially XRP, because you have XRP has more support than a lot of these coins because of, I mean, just look at it. This whole thing is one giant support block, right? So I think it's you know, I think people are bearish and they should have every right to be bearish. And, you know, for all we know, this could be 5 waves, right? This could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it could be done. And this right here could be an A wave, and then we get B, and then we come down and get C. And then we kind of chill out, and then we go. And that's a 1, and that's a 2. That could totally be the case. And if that's the case, then it's not a bear market. What that means, if that was ever confirmed, and there's your 3, right? So 1, 2. If that was ever confirmed, then that means the bull market started right here. And this is a wave 1, and this is a wave 2, and now we're going to continue. But this wave 2 could be as big as this. So actually what I could do is take a bars pattern and just kind of, it's nothing too crazy. I'm just kind of looking at it from a bars pattern perspective. So it'd be something like that, right? Where you have, a high, a crash, a retrace, a high, a high, a crash, a retrace, right? Now this retrace didn't take the top, and I understand that. You can move it over like this, but I think it's better if you have it there. So it could be something like this, it could be something where, you come down and you don't really get a retrace. You kind of just chill out a little bit. And instead of correcting through price like a retrace would do, you correct through time, which is just kind of chilling out, going sideways, but then continuing to drop. So if we dropped, then we would hold support in here and then eventually start to go back to the upside. So as an investor, how do we calculate that decision? How do we calculate that decision? Well, what I would do is simple. I would wait for the confirmation, and then I would start, and if we did drop down here, that's where you would aggressively start to dollar cost average. So, but if you don't have the cash, maybe it's good to get some cash, and that could be, taking some off the table a little bit. I mean, personally, I would wait for the support to get held. I want to see a little bit of a retrace, and then I could take some cash off the table just as an insurance policy in case we do come down, right? In case we do come down, and then eventually we'll come back up, right? Because I think if we do have a bear market, it's not going to be that long. It's not going to be that big. Because again, look, now for certain coins it will be, right? Certain coins not so much, right? Because XRP has invested 8 years of its life building this layer of support, right? Just like back down here. I mean, it's pretty common sense, right? You level up, you build a base. You level up, you build a base. You level up, you build a base. So this is the trend. This is how it's looking. This is how it's going to be. So yeah, that's basically it. Now, if we go back to, we want to see Bitcoin dominance continue to fall. As I said before, I don't think it's going to just fall. I think it's going to go back up. It looks like it's going into a retrace. So you have a crash. You should get a 3-wave move retrace. And then a continuation, hopefully to the downside. But what would happen to the altcoins if that occurred? Well, again, we could see a pretty nasty drop in here for XRP, and we didn't really look at the small time frames. Come on now. Real quick on the small time frames. Hold on a second here. Let's go to the 12-hour maybe. There we go. That fits everything on one chart. So what I would look for here is, again, you have 1, 2, and then it looks like, is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? And this is 1, 2, and this whole thing is 3, right? And then we get another 4 and then a 5. I mean, that could still be the case, and it could still be 3 down, 3 up, and then 5 down. Again, once this 5-wave move to the downside is finished, that's when we should get excited. That's when we should see upside. Now you could say, well, we would still be in a bear market, but even then you could still make money on a long, right? You could still make money in a trade. So yeah, I want to see this wave finish. I don't think it's quite finished. I don't like it a lot because we're bottlenecking. You can see we were bottlenecking, we dropped. We're bottlenecking, right? So we could see a big drop coming here. And we have to be very mindful of that. So again, we could see a big drop. And if that happens, then I would look at that as the fifth wave. I would look at that as the final capitulational wave. But because we had this massive wick right here, right? So, and I've always said we could always come back down and test it 50%, which would totally suck, but hey, it could happen. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we get 5 down, and where would the fifth wave land? Well, if we look at this, I mean, it's really nothing there until all the way down to 122, which is the reason I don't really like it a lot. I mean, I guess if I put the fibs on, it's a little better, or the log scale. I just don't like that too much. But you know, it could be, you know, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5, down to $1.30. So let's look left again, and then we'll put a zone. Like basically anywhere in this zone should be the low, should be the cycle low, or should be the, I'm sorry, the wave, the C wave low. So again, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 3, 5, and then that could be enough to get us a 5-wave move up to, you know, $6, $7, $8, $9. Or if that's not the case, then we would still have 5 down. Then we would kind of chill out a little bit, maybe relax, maybe hit the low again, and then eventually go up and hit it. Right? Maybe you need more accumulation. I don't think so. So we have to wait and see. Look at Dash. Like, look at Dash for a second. It's an old coin. Nobody cares about it. But look, it's you got an impulse. You got a 3-way move down, and you got this big impulse here. So it could continue down very easily, but it could also be building a base right in here, and it could try it, you know, it could be trying to, you know, recover off this 3-wave move. Let's look at Bitcoin Cash now. I'm running out of time. So Bitcoin Cash looks great. Still look, I mean, look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a massive dump, but then look at Bitcoin Cash. It's barely moved. Look at this. Look at this big old dump, but look at Bitcoin Cash. It barely is doing anything. So what does that mean, guys? That means Bitcoin is weaker than Bitcoin Cash. And if that's the case, and Bitcoin is going into a bear market, then that opens the door for a rotational top, right? For rotations. So it may happen, it may not happen, right? And I think there's a very good chance it will. We have Trump in office. We have, you know, the Trump family knee deep in crypto. You think they're just going to let it die? I don't think so. They're making moves behind the scenes, you know. But look, you got an impulse. You have a 3-way pullback, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have another 3-way pullback, and then you have another impulse, and you have a little shallow pullback as Bitcoin dumps. So this sets up a perfect environment for us to go up and hit the high. I'm not saying I'm not saying we're going to go into a full-fledged bull market. I'm saying we can go up and tag the high. And that could be a good 3-4x on that move there. Let's look at, like, Optimism. I looked at it last night. I said, dude, it looked bearish. If you watch my video from last night, definitely watch it. Monero looks, I mean, look at Monero. It looks bullish. Look at XRP, or I'm sorry, look at Bitcoin. And now look at Monero. Explain that to me. Explain that to me. Right? Look at that. Bitcoin is completely getting killed, but look at Monero. It's going up. So what does that mean? Right? If Bitcoin is truly, you know, in a bear market, which it could be, But if it was like knee deep into a bear market, we wouldn't see this type of behavior. So is this a decoupling, right? This is proof that you don't necessarily need Bitcoin to get any type of big move, but you do need Bitcoin to be in certain positions. Like, for example, if it's oversold and we chill out a little bit, and then we start going into a retrace, just that little move back to the upside could be a massive fire to light this thing on a massive fire back to the upside, right? So just a little tiny ignition, a little tiny match, you light it on fire, could be gasoline for Monero, is what I was trying to say. Or the other alternative to this could be a flat A, B, and then C, right? In which case, maybe it's inverted, and this comes up while this comes down. This comes down, then that goes up. I don't think so, though. I don't think that's the case because they've been pretty correlated. But what I would want to look for is XMR BTC. And what's going on with this chart? I've never seen this. I don't think I've seen this chart. Have I ever seen this chart? It looks bullish, though. Look at it. Wow. Hold on a minute now. Let me flip it upside down. Oh, yeah. So I flipped it upside down. Looks very interesting. And now it looks a little bit overbought right here. Look at that. So this is Monero versus Bitcoin, right? So Monero went up, and then it's been going down. It's been going down. It's been going down against Bitcoin since 2017. So a long time, right? But it looks like you have potentially 5 waves, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Do we have bullish divergence? I guarantee we have it. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Look at the 4-day chart. It's insanity. Let's go to the weekly chart. Look at the weekly chart. Look at the weekly bullish divergence down here. Bam. Right? So, but the problem is now you have bearish divergence. I think so. Yeah. You see this down here like this? Watch. Boom. Come on. Boom. And then boom. That's bearish. So Monero versus Bitcoin. What I want to see from Monero versus Bitcoin is you got a 3-way move right here. So if we kind of flag out a little bit, maybe we can hit the high. Or maybe we could get 3 up, and then we get 3 down, and then we go up and get 5. So it'd be a 3-3-5, and then we build that base, and that could be some kind of a Wyckoff structure. We'll see. All right. There's really nothing else going on. I'm gonna look at Theta. I'm gonna look at Monero. Look at ETH and Litecoin. Now the same thing with Ethereum. I really think support's going to be held in here, and I think we're going to go get a retrace. Now, here's 2 ideas for Ethereum. Ready? Here we go. The first one is we get a retrace, and then we get a C wave. So we get an A, B, C, and then we go up. The alternative is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we go up for 5, and then go down. But yeah, I think this would be the best option, something like that. So XLM's probably looking a lot better. The wave is getting longer, which is what you want to complete the C wave. So, oh, look at this. That's what I was remembering. Oh my God. We're on a weekly 9 buy on XLM. So that's impressive. And it's perfected too. We have a perfected weekly 9 buy on XLM. So that's cool. It doesn't mean it's going to go right up. We still have a whole week for this candle to end. It might not even end on a 9. So we need like 2 weeks to really figure it out. But yeah, XLM looks good. Look, you got an impulse, you got 3 down, you got 3 up, and it looks like you're getting 1, 2, 3. Maybe you get 4 and 5 down. That's what I think's going on here. I think we're going to get a little bounce, and then we're going to hit the low hard, and it's going to really convince everyone we're in a bear market. And then that will be the low, and then that's when people sell. But then that's when we start to build, and then we start to go back up, and then that's when everyone gets screwed. So it'd be a 3-3-5. I mean, doesn't it look like it's totally possible? Like, just look at the chart. You have a W shape, you have a cup and handle. I mean, look at those boobies right there. XLM's got some big ones. I mean, look at that. I mean, come on. You know, it's a cup and handle. It's a W. It's a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, right? The only problem I have with it is this right here. You have a 3-wave move up. So this could be 3 waves down. But if it was 3 waves down, it would probably be like 3, 3, and then 3. 3, 3, and then 3. So 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and then go up in 5. And then you have yourself a real base. It could be A, B, C, D, E. It could be a triangle. A, B, C, D, E. Which would totally suck. You know, that would mean all year we would be basically dead. So, SHIB, I'm not, you know, meme coins don't really mean anything right now. THETA. So, I'm still thinking THETA is developing a structure, and we're going to retest this base, right? I mean, it's a pretty straightforward chart. I mean, you built a base, you broke out of the base, you went up 50,000%, which is insane. And then you had an A, and then you have a B, and then this could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down for C, and we're almost there. So A, B, C. So we have an impulse, we have an A, B, C. So what I want to see is, I think theta is really close to developing a bottom, right? I would say a little bit further down to go, but I think we're going to build support right here, and then we're going to go into a retrace. So that's what I still think is happening, and that retrace could be a bigger percentage than even XRP because it's been down in the dumps so much. I mean, look at it. I mean, it's lower than it was when we started our channel. You know, that's how low it is. So we did get our retrace. When I started the channel, it was at 64 cents. And I said we would get a retrace. We got it. But then, you know, this ended up being a B wave, right? Which was also possible. So, but if we just go back up to, you know, our peak up here, that's a 10x move, guys. That's a 10x move. If we got back up to, that's why I'm really like, man, theta's looking really attractive right here, because think about that for a second. If theta just goes into a retrace, that's a 6 to 10x. That's insane, right? If we're down here and you buy and let's say I swap some XRP or for theta, and then we go all the way up, that's a 10x move just on a retrace, not even counting the all-time high or anything like that. But I'm looking more at like maybe theta fuel, but theta is looking interesting. I mean, that's a lot of red candles right there. So you're on a 2-week 7, 2-week 8, 2-week 9, so maybe 4 weeks more. Let's zoom in a little bit. Yeah, this wave looks like it could be almost done. You know, you kind of have 1, 2. This looks like all like 3 to me. Like 1, 2, all of this is 3. And then we're going to get 4, and then we get 5. And that's the same with XLM and XRP. Like, it looks like we need a 4 and a 5. And then once we get that 4 and 5, then we can look for upside. Now, you could make the case, let's look at the daily, that we already have 5. 1, 2, 3, and then we have 4, and then this is coming down for 5. The problem with it is the wick. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now we're coming down for 7. You're kind of bottlenecking in here a little bit, but it's not too bad. So, yeah, I think we're very close to our range and ready, really close for a buy. Like H bar, it looks like it needs to come down and finish. Link. I mean, Link looks like, you're right on support. It looks like it needs a bounce. It looks like you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like it's basically done. Now, I'm not ready to confidently say that for sure, but it looks like it could be almost there. I mean, I would let it come down I would let it break the low a little bit more, and then I would imagine that would be a local low. ICP, AVAX, don't like that at all. Yeah, XRP's been holding up quite well compared to some of these other ones. Just kind of looking at everything, just seeing what's going on. Looks bad. Theta Fuel, here we go. So Theta Fuel looks like it needs to break down as well. It looks, you could see, like, we're testing, we're testing, we're testing, we're testing. It looks like a descending triangle. It looks like it's going to fall down. But I think that would be the final one, because that would bring us back down to our support area down here. Yeah, this looks like it's going to crash. So looks like it's going to come down. But it looks like it's also in its fifth wave, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. But then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And then you would need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you need another wave. What seems like to me. Total 3 looks like a flat. Same thing with total 3. Once this finishes, we want to see a bounce. And if that bounce turns into a shoulder, then we have a head and shoulder. Then we can say, okay, now we're going to go down into a bear market, then recover later. Otherwise, this could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, A, B, C, 2. So we have a 1, we have a 2. But here's the thing. The wave 2 could also be 3, 3, and then 5. And that could be your wave 2. So, that it makes it a little bit tricky. Dogecoin's getting its C wave. I know others was getting its C wave. Oh yeah, gold and silver, man. Gold's moving up. Silver's on a rip. It's at almost $60. $60 silver. I think everybody's going to be chasing the silver stuff now. And it could be to a point where I have to sell some silver and then buy some THETA or something. Some cheap coin that will pay off in the years to come. I mean, the stock market looks fine. Nothing too crazy going on. The Dow, it could be like an ABC though. It looks like it could be like an ABC maybe. I was trying to look for others. This is the one. Yeah, so others is the issue. Like this looks bearish. This looks like it needs to come down. Like you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have A, then you have B, and now it looks like we need to come down for C, and it looks like C's not finished. And it's like, well, everything's crashing, but others is not, and it's like kind of a little bit sketchy. Like why it should be already crashing by now. So, you know, you have the head and shoulders. You have the head, you have the shoulder, you have the other shoulder here. You're on the trend line. So either you're going to get a bounce because everyone thinks we're going to just crash. You know, everyone oh, look at head and shoulders, so I'm going to go short. But you don't short it on support. You have to wait for the confirmation. But Litecoin, same thing with Litecoin. You know, Litecoin hasn't really been too bad. So let me go back to Litecoin. If I put Bitcoin up, like look at the difference. That's a pretty big straight move down. This is a little bit more corrective. So if we take that off, you could see what Litecoin has been doing, right? It goes up in 5 and then it comes down in 3, right? You go up and then you come back down in 3. So it looks like three-way move down, three-way move down. So once that three-way move down finishes, you could get upside, upside, upside. Dog. Looks like a disaster. So anyways, that shall do it for this video. I lost my phone, and some of the comments, like on my YouTube studio, I don't know, there's just, so if there's any request, you can drop them in this video. But anyways, appreciate everybody, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.